What is going on, guys? Welcome to the chat. Do I have the live chat here? I do. Cool. We're live. Let's do some live stuff. Haven't done this in a while with the Jets. So we're going to be talking. And we're going to be talking about the New York Jets offensive coordinator position. We're going to be talking about the New York Jets quarterback position. And we're just going to try and figure out, what do the New York Jets have to do this offseason to make it work? We don't know. There isn't really a set in stone answer here for that question. We just don't know. We don't know what the right answer is. So we're going to talk about it. Give me a second, guys. Let me tweet this out. Let's get some more people up in here. Let's get some people up in here. Hashtag Jets. This is kind of out of nowhere. Cool. I want to do a little bit of everything today for today's live stream. I want to talk about the Jets QB position. I want to talk about the draft possibly. What are the options that the New York Jets have in the draft? We're going to do and touch on it all. Maybe even get some people to stop by and hang out and join the stream. But I was getting ready and I was going to do a video about this. And I just realized that there was so many different situations and conversation points and talking points that I couldn't get it in a video that was short enough that people would actually sit through and watch. So I decided, screw it. If I can't make it in a short enough version to where people are going to sit through and actually watch, I'm going to live stream it. We're going to talk about it because and the conversation was specifically around the offensive coordinator and obviously the quarterback position, because we know that the New York Jets are going to be looking for a veteran quarterback. But when I was looking at all of the teams in the NFL and I was doing my evaluation of what teams are going to be at least having a conversation about their quarterback room, I came up with the list of 16 teams that realistically could have a new starter under center next year. And that's insane, because when you look at this free agent class and when you look at this draft class, there aren't 16 starters. There aren't 16 guys that are out there so that everybody will be able to get a guy. It's just not the way that it is. So we're going to be going over that. We're going to be talking about these teams. We're going to be talking about the situations and the scenarios that these players might end up with and who they might end up with. So let's go over that list. I came up with 16 teams, and those 16 teams go the Washington Commanders, the Detroit Lions, the Atlanta Falcons, the New Orleans Saints, the Carolina Panthers, the Seattle Seahawks, the Indianapolis Colts, the Houston Texans, the New York Jets, the New England Patriots, the Las Vegas Raiders, the New York Giants, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Tennessee Titans, the Miami Dolphins, and the Chicago Bears. Those are all teams that, you know what, they might not start somebody new. They might not they might do the same thing as they did before and run it back with the same guys. But these are the teams that are at least going to have a conversation about it, right? These are the guys that are at least going to look at their offseason and be, you know what, we've got questions at the quarterback position. We don't know what we don't know that we're 100% going to be doing X, Y, or Z at the quarterback position. Some of these teams are going to obviously be addressing it in the draft. A great example of that are, I think, the two teams that I think I know for sure are going to be addressing it in the draft are the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. But here's the real thing. What we don't know is are there other teams that might do that? Are there other teams that might look at this draft because it's not a good quarterback draft. And now with the news that CJ Stroud might go back to college, that Ohio State is trying to pony up this massive NIL deal to keep CJ Stroud in college. If CJ Stroud doesn't declare, woo, this is a big deal. This is a big, big deal. Because we just lost, in my opinion, quarterback one of this draft. Which means we have less quarterbacks at the top of the draft, which means that more teams are going to hit free agency. So let's talk about this free agency class. Let's talk about how many quarterbacks are potential starters in this free agency class. So when we look at the free agents, and I'm including in this free agency class players that might be available via the trade or, might get cut, that kind of market as well. So let's look at that. So I think at the top of the list, probably going to be at the top of a lot of people's list, is Tom Brady. He's going to be a free agent. Then Jimmy G and Derek Carr. Derek Carr, I put in this list because I don't think a team is going to end up trading for him on that contract, and I think that Vegas is going to ultimately end up cutting him. Then we have Taylor Heineke, Ryan Tannehill, Baker Mayfield, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Andy Dalton, Gardner Minshew, Marcus Mariota, Mitchell Trubisky, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, and Lamar Jackson are all guys that might be available this offseason. Might. And you look at all those names, not everyone's going to be able to pony up a package for Lamar Jackson and end up paying him, right? There's only 3 real starting quarterbacks, and there's 16 teams that might be looking at for a starting quarterback. It's insane. So let's go over who I think ends up with who. So if I think the Detroit Lions are going to run it back. I think that truthfully and wholeheartedly. I think they run it back. I think Jared Goff stays in Detroit. I know that they can cut him as of right now, and they could it would just be a $10 million dead cap hit and a $5 million dead cap hit next year. But Detroit was able to go get 7 wins without having really any serious wide receiver threats outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And with injuries at the running back position and being devastated there, and not having a good defense. They don't have any corners. They just don't have a good defense. Now they've got a lot of building blocks of guys that could turn into things, but they need a corner. They need linebackers. They need safeties. They need another edge. They need interior defensive linemen, and they've got the cap space. They can make it work. And Jared Goff, yes, is a big cap hit, but he led that team to 7 wins. And yes, the Lions are picking at 6. But at 6, is Will Levis better than Jared Goff? Because that is possibly who's going to be available, right? I don't think so. What's going on, Tyson? Welcome to the stream. It's interesting. But I think Detroit runs it back with Jared Goff. Right? So, boom. There's a team that we don't need to worry about. I think Houston and Indianapolis, like I said before, I think they're going to be addressing the quarterback position in free agency. In the draft. So, boom. There's that. There's 3 teams. So, we're down to 13 teams that are probably going to be looking at a quarterback this offseason. Seattle. Seattle's super interesting because they have the number 5 pick. Right? And they just had a really, really good year with Geno Smith. Does Geno Smith go back? Does Geno Smith try to test the waters in free agency? What is the answer there? If they gave Geno Smith a legitimate defense and they invested their first-round picks on straight-up just defense and they brought back Geno, is that a winning team? I think so. I think Geno stays. Tyson, starting us off hot with a great question. So what about Hackett at OC and Aaron Rodgers at quarterback? That is very, very, very much an option. I'm not a fan of that option. One, because Nathaniel Hackett hasn't really been good, right? Anywhere that he's been, where at all. We saw how bad Denver was and that whole situation. He didn't call plays in Green Bay. That was Matt LaFleur, you know. And then the other biggest thing is I don't want to trade for Aaron Rodgers and have to deal with that contract. Unless Green Bay cuts him, right? And he hits free agency. And then we can say, you know what? Aaron Rodgers is a free agent. We can bring him in, and he's willing to come here for $30-ish million because I don't want to give him 40. And he wants Nathaniel Hackett. That's a different conversation. But since I know Green Bay is not going to cut Aaron Rodgers, they're going to say either someone's going to come trade for you, you're going to play for us, or you're going to retire. I don't want to send the package that is going to cost to go get Aaron Rodgers at all. And the other big problem is I don't necessarily want to inject that ego into this room. We still have players that we need to re-sign. We still have holes that we need to fill and a draft class that we need to re-sign. And as of right now, the New York Jets have like $11 million in cap space. Now, I know we have $8 million in cap space for 2023. So I know that there are ways around it. And I know that if we were to like restructure CJ Mosley, restructure Laken Tomlinson, you know, if we were to cut and then extend or bring back or give a new contract with a new cap hit for Carl Lawson, or even just straight up cut Carl Lawson, if we can restructure JFM and like a lot of these guys that are on the team with these massive contracts, we can create cap space just by doing those things that I mentioned. I didn't even cut Corey Davis yet. Just by doing those things, that gives us $54 million in cap space. All we have to do is restructure CJ Mosley's contract, which saves us $8 million. Restructure Laken Tomlinson's contract, which would save us $6 million. Now, if we were to just straight up cut Laken Tomlinson, we would take it would be a pretty bad wash. We can't really do that. You're just going to have to restructure him. So we restructure Laken Tomlinson's contract so that we can save $6 million. Cut Carl Lawson and then bring him back on a new deal. We would save $15 million. And then you cut Corey Davis, which saves you $10.5 million, and restructure JFM will save you $7 million. If you do all of those things, you can save a lot of money. That doesn't include the fact that we can also look at restructuring DJ Reed if he'd be willing to do that. Dwayne Brown can also be a cut candidate where we would save money. We would save $6 million there. CJ Uzama is a restructure. There are so many ways that we can, yes, create cap space. But even with doing a couple of cap shenaniganery and doing those things, it's not going to give us all of the money in the world. We have a lot of players that we need to bring back. We have a lot of players that aren't going to be on this team next year. Our entire linebacker room is going to walk away this offseason. All of them, except for CJ Mosley. We don't have anybody in the linebacker room. Technically, we need to re-sign Zonovan Knight. He's not on the team. We also need to re-sign James Robinson and or Ty Johnson. Now, I'm not saying that these are going to be huge deals or anything like that, but they are impending free agents. You can't just allocate all of your money to the quarterback that we're going to be bringing in. We need to save $5 million so that we can bring in a backup guard. We can bring in a backup center so that we can bring in one of these running backs, because Breece Hall is going to be coming back from injury. Michael Carter's still under contract, but Zonovan Knight actually has one more year left. I'm sorry. But James Robinson and Ty Johnson aren't on the roster technically. They're free agents. Ty Johnson is an unrestricted free agent. He can go wherever he wants, and I don't want to lose Ty. I think he's incredibly good, and he can be on this team. If we cut Corey Davis, that means that more than likely that we're going to have to go out and find a wide receiver. Now, we can go draft a guy in like the third or the fourth round, and I'm cool with that. But that guy still needs to get a contract. You still need to set aside money. So that's why I'm kind of anti-Aaron Rodgers. It's the same reason why I'm anti-Lamar Jackson when it comes to bringing him to the New York Jets, because it's not just paying him, which is one thing. If Lamar Jackson hit free agency and all it would cost to get him is money, that's one thing. But it's not. It's going to be a Watson-sized haul to go get Lamar Jackson. So you're looking at 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, a couple of third and fourth-round picks, probably a player or a quarterback going back, which would accrue a dead cap hit, because if we had to send Zach Wilson back, we'd get a $10 million dead cap hit. Like, it's not easy to go get these guys, and that's where it's more realistic to just go get a free agent. And that's why, to answer in super long-winded terms, Tyson, why I'm not a Hackett-Rodgers combo marrying at OC and at quarterback. But yeah, I hope that answers the question. I know it was long-winded, but yeah, that was my take. I'll take a sip of water, guys. Whew. I'm going to take another one. Water's so good. Alrighty. Great question. I think the most realistic option when it comes to this offseason, when it comes to bringing a quarterback in, I think it's really only 2 names. I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. I think the most realistic option when it comes to this offseason and what the New York Jets are going to do at quarterback is Greg Olsen and Derek Carr. I think that's the thing that everyone expects or everybody is kind of planning on. I think that makes the most sense, but absolutely not Charles M. To read it to everybody, would rather trade for a young Justin Fields if he becomes available than an oft-injured Lamar Jackson. I am not saying that I would not want Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, because of the injuries, but more importantly because of the contract. But Justin Fields is a discount Lamar Jackson, who is also often injured and has a much worse throwing motion and much worse throwing ability than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is already the butt of jokes in the NFL as a running back under center, right? And part of that is true. Lamar Jackson has not shown yet that he can win as a pocket passer. The main part of his game is still his legs, but he can make throws. Justin Fields is only part of his game is his legs. He cannot throw an NFL football right now, and the biggest reason for that is his throwing motion. So if Justin Fields becomes available, one, I think the asking price that the Chicago Bears are going to be asking for is going to be way too high, and I'm not willing to pay that. And then two, the other reason I think it doesn't happen is because that would be Joe Douglas admitting that he was wrong on Zach Wilson. And whether or not you believe Zach Wilson is the guy, isn't the guy, that's not the conversation that I'm trying to have. It's whether or not Joe Douglas is going to admit that, and I don't think he will. And that's why, one, I don't think it's going to happen, but two, why I'm not a fan of Justin Fields. I think the really only 3 options out there are obviously Jimmy G, Derek Carr, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, what? But he had a sneaky good year. He just happened to be on the Saints, and that would be Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton did everything that he could with a very, very injured offensive line and wide receiver room in New Orleans and still was able to crawl to 7 wins. Now, the NFC is a much easier conference, and the NFC South is pretty easy right now. That being said, he did throw the ball exceptionally well, and if you're telling me that we could get, theoretically, Andy Dalton at a much cheaper rate, and that would give us the ability to really, really strengthen our offensive side of the ball, you could sell me on that. I don't want Andy Dalton. My scenario that I think would be best for everybody is Derek Carr. He doesn't have an injury issue. He wants to come to a new team where he's going to have all the weapons, which is what we have, and he's going to want to shut up all of the haters everywhere. It's going to be kind of a Stafford effect, right? When he went to Los Angeles with the Rams. Nobody gave a crap about Stafford because he was on the Lions for so long. The same thing happened with Derek Carr and the Raiders. Derek Carr has been nothing but absolutely solid for Vegas for years. But he never got any of the credit that he deserved because he was in Oakland and he was in Vegas, and there were other teams in his division that were much, much better. And then also the Raiders have been mismanaged like all hell for the last 10 years. Ever since he's been there, it's been a mismanagement from the top down, from the moving from Oakland to Vegas and everything. I think you bring him into a system that's going to highlight him. It's going to be like, I think Derek Carr on this team is a Super Bowl Derek Carr with a fixed offensive line and this team is a Super Bowl contending football team. I think that honestly. So, yeah. What's up, Matthew Smith? Thanks for stopping by. Talking about offensive coordinators and quarterbacks. But that's my opinion. And I also think that Jimmy G is not a realistic option because I think Jimmy G is going to be the next quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Jimmy's going to go to Tampa. Tom is going to go to Miami. And then Derek Carr, where's Derek Carr going to want to go? Right? Who else is going to be available and looking for a quarterback seriously that has it? That's what I said. That's what I said, Matthew. It's exactly what I said. Justin Fields is just as bad at passing, and that's the whole situation. Tua's not going to leave Miami. I don't think they can. The only way they're not going to cut Tua, the only way that they're going to get rid of Tua is if they trade him, and I don't think we would trade for Tua. Right? Let me go look at their cap situation. Miami Dolphins, because I don't think they can get rid of Tua. Quarterback. Yeah, they can't get rid of Tua yet. They would eat his whole contract as a dead cap hit. If they cut him, they eat $10 million. I don't think that they want to do that. It makes more sense to keep Tua on the roster at 10 mil and try to bring in Brady. Because right now, they have negative $10 million in cap space. Jesus Christ, Miami's cap situation is in shambles. That's crazy. Charles M., if Carr gets cut, which is most likely, how many years and how much money do you think it will take to get him? How much do you think JD is willing to spend? This is a great question, Charles. Let me address this because this is funny as crap. Tua has scrambled eggs in his head. That's hilarious. But coming back to serious, this is a great question. And here's the thing. It depends. What's up, Hawk? It depends on the team, right? Because there are going to be organizations that are going to go to Derek Carr and they're going to be like, look, this is what we can spend on you, but this is the team that we're going to support you with, right? I think great examples of that are teams who are not going to come in betting the world when it comes to trying to go get Derek Carr or anything like that. Is going to be like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to try to figure out a way. One, did you know that the Bucs have negative $43 million in estimated cap hit of cap value in 2023? That's insane. And it's all because of the Tom Brady contract. That's crazy. That's besides the point. When we look at the teams that are going to be out there for a quarterback, specifically who are going to be enticing for Derek Carr, One scenario that I am actually terrified of a team that might be able to just throw the bag at him, theoretically, is Washington. The Washington Commanders literally just need a quarterback. Their team is so good, and they're in a really, really difficult division, and they just need help on the offensive line and the interior of the offensive line. But like Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Gibson, Brian Robinson, like they've got a lot of really, really good pieces and they've got a really good head coach, but they don't have stable ownership. So it's one of those things where I think at minimum, you've got to give them a 3-year deal. right? I think it's 3 years. And I think he's going to want to be in the 30s. I think 31, 32 gets it done, right? I think that's the reality of the situation there. Let me look up what his contract is right now with the Raiders. Derek Carr is a $34 million. What's the AAV? Average salary is $40 million. He's not going to get anywhere near that, especially after having a bad year. But he's also not going to be a $20 million contract. So my guess is that you're going to be looking at probably 3 years. Let me pull up my calculator. 3 years at probably $34 million a year. That looks at it, that probably comes out to anywhere from $100 to $105 million over those 3 years. You guarantee a good chunk of the first 2 years is the way that I would do it, so that you can move on from him by the time Zach's 5th year has to come in, and if you decide to take Zach's 5th year option to run it back. But you probably just give him 3 years, a little bit over $100 million. That gets him here, and that gives the New York Jets the best ability to really, that'll give them the ability to really work the offseason, because if we restructure a bunch of contracts, that'll leave us with about $20-ish million in cap space. And here's the thing. We can also delay the cap hit so that it's not this year. We can make it work so that it's like a $25 million cap hit this year, but next year it's like a $35 million cap, or a 38. You know what I mean? We can work the contract so that the cap hit isn't all the same, or we can work it to where it's a massive cap hit. Like, there's things we can do with his cap hit. But if you're looking at average annual value, my guess is 32, 33 at $105 million. 32, 33 a year, 105, 106 million over the 3 years. Now, this is a great comment. Let me say hi to a couple people first. Thanks, Xavier Howard. Not sure what that's in reference to. What's up, Hawk? Said hi to you. Yeah, I think you're spot on, Tigo. Probably 3 years, just over $100 million. Yep. The Colts might be dumb enough to overpay him. Here's the thing with the Colts, right? The Colts actually have a really good roster. If they could get a head coach in there, like legitimately, like just get a good head coach, they've got a roster that can win soon. Here's the thing. They also have the number 4 pick. So it's one of those things to be able to say, maybe they just take Will Levis at 4. Maybe the Indianapolis Colts are going to trade up to 1 to go take Bryce Young. Like, that, I think, is more likely to be what's going to end up happening than them getting a free agent. When you're at 4, you have to take a shot at a quarterback when you're a team that needs a quarterback. So I think the Colts are going to take a shot at a quarterback. But this is a team to be scared of. I like the way you're thinking. Thank you, Hawk. If Carr works out, we stick with him. If not, after 2 years, we still have Zach, and he'll be nice and marinated and ready to cook. Charles M., I think, says what everybody's thinking, and that's very wishful thinking. I agree, but it is that is ultimately what you're hoping for, is that you sign Derek Carr, you win 2 Super Bowls, and then Zach Wilson comes in and you win like 4 or 5 more, right? Like, that's the perfect scenario. You sign Derek Carr to 3 years. Zach Wilson is his backup for the next 2 years. Doesn't matter. We win the next 2 Lombardis because we're so dominant. And then when it comes time to give Zach the 5th year option, you give Zach the 5th year option. You part ways with Derek Carr, and then you just go on a dynasty-like run, resetting all the standards of the quarterback position. Now quarterbacks start sitting. Like, that's the dream, right? Like, but like Hawk says, just let me dream, right? It's not realistic, but that's the situation that you hope for. I think what ends up happening is we're going to bring in a guy, and I don't know if Zach Wilson ever sees the field again. Just being honest. I think we're going to end up doing what the San Francisco 49ers did during the Zach Wilson year. I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to have a really, really good winning team. We're going to make the playoffs, and we're going to have a run, and we're going to skip out on Zach's fifth-year option, and we're going to run Derek Carr all 3 years. And in the last year of Derek Carr's contract, we're going to go trade the world to go up from 20-something to number 2 or number 3 to go get, whoever the guy is that year to come in with our new offensive coordinator, because whoever we bring in, he's getting a head coaching job because he did so good with Derek Carr and yada, yada, yada. I think that that's a much more likely scenario than Zach Wilson really ever taking a snap for the New York Jets. Now, I hope that he's good enough to come back and all of that stuff, but I think that's a more realistic way of things shaking out. The New York Jets go out and get somebody, and that's it. That would be insane. But what is that? That's like 5 years from now, isn't it? Because he's a junior in high school right now? What is Arch Manning? I'm going to look him up. What grade is he in? Is he a sophomore or is he a senior? Yeah, he has committed to Texas. He's a senior. He's going to Texas this year. Dude, I'm on board now. We missed out on Peyton. Let's get Arch. I'm on board now. I know it's hard to let go of the dream, but once our new QB starts completing a few normal passes, Zach will be an afterthought. You're not wrong. Yeah, he committed to Texas. Okay, I have a question. Let's say worst case scenario, someone steals Carr for a bag. Rodgers stays. Brady goes to Las Vegas. Lamar stays in Baltimore. Jimmy G stays in San Fran or goes elsewhere. What's the plan? I talked about this, Hawk, and the plan is Andy Dalton. Like, that's it, right? Because here are the names. Here's who's available, right? I know I just maxed out a little bit there. Sorry. Let me lower the volume of my mic just a little bit. Okay, cool. Look, before you react, Hawk, let me read you off these names. Here's who's available. Taylor Heineke, Tom Brady, Jimmy G, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, Ryan Tannehill, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Andy Dalton, Gardner Minshew, Marcus Mariota. Those are all of the free agents that are going to be available, right? Tom Brady either goes to Miami or goes to Las Vegas. That makes sense. Just like you said. Boom, boom. He's gone, and I don't want Brady. Lamar, I think, ultimately ends up staying. I agree with that situation. If he doesn't stay, he's going to Carolina, in my opinion. That's the only team that would be willing to trade the package and do all that stuff. All right, cool. Jimmy G, I think, goes to Tampa. That's where I think he goes, right? Let's say Derek Carr goes to Washington, right? Let's just put that there. Jared Goff is going to stay in Detroit. They're not going to cut him, so he's not even going to be an option. Ryan Tannehill is already in Atlanta. He already bought a house in Atlanta with his wife and his kids because he's going to go there. He's going to match up with his offensive coordinator again, right? So that's a thing. Geno Smith is going to stay in Seattle. Daniel Jones is probably going to run it back with New York Giants. Who else is there? Andy Dalton was I think he was a top 10 quarterback this year. Secretly. Like when it comes to stats. Like just straight up the box score. I'm not saying it's a great answer. I'm not saying that this is the guy. Right? Because it's not. But Andy Dalton, with with missing a couple games, threw for 3,000 yards. According to PFF, they graded him as the 7th best quarterback in the NFL this year. And there's a massive asterisk because PFF is a load of crap. But still, I'm just saying, Gardner Minshew was a backup in Philly. I'll give him that. But even when he played this year for Philly, it wasn't good. Right? He played 5 games for Philly, and he didn't look good. Ryan Tannehill, like Charles M says here, Ryan Tannehill, I think, is already in Atlanta. And while I'll listen to the Taylor Heineke conversation, Taylor Heineke, like at that point, like Taylor Heineke is just like Mike White without broken ribs and a little bit more moxie. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, at that point, just keep Mike White. Look, I'm not saying that I love it, but I think Andy Dalton is the answer if you don't get Derek Carr or Jimmy G. I think, and I swear honestly, if Andy Dalton comes into Battle Zach 3.0 for the starting job, he's going to lose. Well, how are the Jets fans going to react to that? Oh, man, I can't imagine Andy Dalton. I don't think he loses. Not in our offense, not with our new offensive line that we're going to have. Like, seriously talking about it, Andy Dalton might be the answer. He's he's like the fourth best quarterback. He's probably like the fifth best quarterback in this free agency class. Which sucks that I'm saying that, but that's true. Look, I'm just saying, dude. I'm not trying to sit here and say Andy Dalton is the I'm not. But what's his completion percentage? 66.7 completion percentage. He threw for a little under 3,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, 9 interceptions with nobody. Just like, dude, it's just grab Clayton Tune. I'm going to need to clarify that one for me. If they sign Andy Dalton, then I want to see them take a QB in the draft. You can't take a QB in this draft. Where are you going to take a QB in the draft? In the first? That's a waste of an asset. Who's going to be available at 13 that's going to be worth it? Because AR-15 needs to sit for 2 years, right? At minimum. And what is AR-15 if not just a younger Zach Wilson? That's all it is. He's a bigger, younger Zach Wilson. Struggles with the throws under pressure, just like that. Oh, Clayton Tune, the back. Oh, I got it. I'm not taking Hendon Hooker after that knee and the fact that Hendon Hooker is not a good prospect. Hendon Hooker's not going to play next year at all, right? Because of the knee. That's the reality of the situation. And Hendon Hooker, he was going to be, if he didn't get hurt, he was going to be a reason a GM got fired because a GM was going to take Hendon Hooker in the first, and that's a mistake. That's absolutely a mistake. There just isn't a good answer. And Hendon Hooker is like 25, 26 years old. So you're getting a guy in the third or the fourth round who's hurt and will have to redshirt his first year, who's older than the guy that you have on the roster right now in Zach Wilson and isn't anywhere near as good. Come on. That's not the answer. Hooker going to be like 25, 26. Exactly, pure adrenaline sports. And, hello, Brock Purdy's not getting traded. Jimmy G lost his job because Brock Purdy was so good. I swear to you, this upcoming offseason, the quarterback competition between Brock Purdy and Trey Lance is going to be hilarious to watch because you're going to look at the guy that they took off of a whim as the last pick in the draft versus the guy that they traded a bunch of stuff to go up to get for, competing for the starting job. And that's going to be hilarious because I think Brock Purdy is going to win the job because at this point in time, Trey Lance hasn't played football in like 3 or 4 years, which is crazy to me. Crazy to me. I think I would rather bring back Sam Darnold than sign Andy Dalton. I still can't imagine that being a reality. Well, what a letdown that would be after the Lamar and Carr talk. I don't think Lamar was ever really an option, but if we do lose out on the Derek Carr sweepstakes, that's a big problem because I don't know who else is available. I don't think it's hard for anyone not to be as good as Zach at this point. Dude, the problem with Zach is it's not a skill issue. It's a mental issue. That's really it. When he's feeling good and when he's in the zone and he's playing like there's nothing to lose, He can make the throws, he can make the reads, and he can do all of those things. But he gets into his head too often. And when he does that, he loses all of his fundamentals. And then I think the biggest problem with Zach is that I think he's lazy in his dropbacks, man. I just think that's the truth. I think when it comes to his dropbacks, when it comes to his situation, like, he's just lazy. And it's a problem. No! I'm sure it wasn't supposed to come up. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah. If he can get better in his drop back, if he can do all that stuff, I think he's much better. Guys, I have 2 empty water bottles here. I'm going to get another water bottle. I'll be right back. Like, it's right there. So, like, give me a second. Never mind. That was open. I'm going to go to the fridge. Give me a second. All right, and we're back. Alrighty. Let's... Oh, never mind. Oh, she sent it here. Okay, cool. Let's look at some of these chats. The problem is, I think the moment LaFleur was fired, Zach's mental issues went away. Get him on a field right now. I bet he makes all the throws. I don't know. I have no idea. I can't say that that's 100% true because I wasn't on board with the firing of Mike LaFleur. I thought he should have stayed. I'm not going to sit here and give him a bunch of excuses. He's gone. But I was on the train of we should keep him. He's gone. That's fine. And we got to deal with that situation. But I don't know if that's 100% true. Matthew Smith, I'm so glad we fired LaFleur. Woody is next. Woody just needs to back away from the team. That's it. Just be the owner of the team. You don't need to meddle. This is the problem I have with the NFL and like being like owned privately, right? Is that the ownership group meddles so much. And it's just like, I know, right? I'm showing my nipples. Guys, because of the OnlyFans showing, right? If you want, give me a second. I'm gonna send the link. I'm gonna send the link now. I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Boom. If you guys want to leave some tips. Nope. Boom. If you guys want to take a look at my merch. If you want to do a super chat. All of that's right there. I'm going to put it up right here. Boom. Woody has done everything. I don't think Woody is doing everything right at all, Hawk, if I'm being honest. All of the things that were done right with this team, outside of Adam Gase, were done under Chris. Chris brought in Joe Douglas. Chris hired Robert Saleh. The moment Woody came in, he started messing with things. And that's when things have started. One, the team has obviously gotten better, but that's just because of time, and Joe Douglas is an insane general manager. But, like, his meddling, like firing Mike LaFleur, whether you agree or disagree with the situation, was not the right decision. Not now. Because now everybody knows that this team has a playoff mandate, and what offensive coordinator worth their salt is going to want to attach themselves to a head coach under an owner who's been known to pull the trigger on stuff like this way too early, meddles with the team and the, like, I'm just saying. I'm not saying that keeping LaFleur was the answer, firing LaFleur was the answer. I'm just saying firing LaFleur put us in a very, very difficult situation when it comes to hiring an offensive coordinator and convincing a veteran quarterback to come. It's a very difficult situation. I would have rather had kept Mike LaFleur, brought in Derek Carr, and shown some stability. And if it didn't work, if we didn't make the playoffs next year, we get 10 wins, fire everybody and start over and have Derek Carr as a selling piece. So I would have preferred to see that, because I just think the likelihood of us being that bad back-to-back is just wrong. But it's just one of those things from now that, like, I think we're in a really interesting predicament. Now, I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I'm hoping that we can go out and get a stud. I'm hoping that we can convince Derek Carr to come here, and that next year, this time, we're talking about the New York Jets getting a round 1 bye because we have the number 1 seed in the AFC. Like, that's what I hope happens, right? And then a month from now, 1 year from now, I buy a full replica of a Lombardi, and I'm just gonna be the most obnoxious person on the planet. But that's it. It just doesn't look like Zach's ever going to do that here. Maybe somewhere else 3 or 4 years from now. Yeah, if we're going back to what I was saying. Yeah, I think Zach Wilson gets another shot, but I just don't know if it's with the Jets. If a veteran quarterback comes in and starts winning, I don't know how we're going to be able to justify putting him back on the field, especially unless the quarterback gets hurt. But I'm going to knock on all the wood that that doesn't happen. What is up, John Hepburn? LaFleur sucks. Again, I'm not saying I'm right, but I am saying you're wrong. That's funny. I disagree. I think we made ourselves a more attractive and more available and flexible to install any offense and have any style QB. Nobody wanted to play for LaFleur. We have the best OC job available. I don't think that's true. Just don't think that's true. I don't think we have the best OC job available. Arizona is a very, very interesting offensive coordinator position. Whatever head coach goes there, you're going to want to go to Arizona, because if they don't trade D-Hop, and if they do that, and you're attaching yourself to a brand new regime, that's an interesting place to go, right? That's a conversation, and that's a place that someone might want to go. Tennessee is a super interesting offensive coordinator position, because you know that Vrabel isn't on the hot seat, and you're going to get to coach Derek Carr. I'm not saying that we're not an attractive position for an offensive coordinator. We are. But with the questions of bad ownership, because that's what Woody is bad ownership, and a coaching staff that is perceived to be on the hot seat, you take there are going to be offensive coordinators that are going to look at that with a side eye and be like, or QB, that's my thing. And here's the big problem, right? If you were going to tell me that, you know what, we're going to go get the Eagles quarterback coach, that's a different conversation, because that's a new, never called plays before in the NFL, never done anything in the NFL. That's a new guy, and he's just going to be glad that he got his opportunity. He'll hitch his wagon to anybody, right? That's a different conversation. If we went young at offensive coordinator, that's something. But that's not what the reports are. The reports are that we want to bring in a veteran, that we want to bring in someone who's called plays at the NFL level successfully before. And those types of guys are going to be wary of the New York Jets situation. I honestly think that the most attractive place for any offensive coaching person to go to right now is Houston. Whether that's as head coach or as offensive coordinator. Because if you can go to Houston, you know that you're going to have 2 first-round picks this year and next year. You're going to have one of the best offensive linemen, left tackles on the planet in Laramie Tunsil. And you have a crap ton of capital, and you're going to be given time. And you're going to get your pick at quarterback, right? Young quarterback. I'm not saying that we're not an attractive spot, because I think we are. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Elijah Vera Tucker, Mekhi Becton. These are selling points. Elijah Moore, a top 5 defense. These are selling points. 3 players voted to the All-Pro team on the defensive side of the ball. You know that you're not going to have to score 50 points to win every game. You need to get to 25. If you can get to 25, you know that the defense is going to hold. There's a lot of good things for our offensive coordinator spot, but there are a lot of bad things. There is a lot of strings attached when it comes to our offensive coordinator position that you won't have other places. So to say that it's easy, I don't know if firing LaFleur made us a more attractive places for a quarterback. I don't know if that's true. Let's catch up on some of this stuff. It couldn't get any worse than Mike LaFleur's offense this year, especially with Zach's. Giants did okay in their year one reset with Dable. Yeah, and that's because I think Brian Dable is a special coach. I think he's going to be the guy that ultimately ends up replacing Andy Reid in that conversation. You know how Andy Reid, in my estimation, I think he's the best NFL coach in the NFL right now. I think he's better than Belichick. That's fine, right? Whatever. Like, you know how Andy Reid is thought about as the offensive head coach. He's the guy when it comes to offenses. That's what I think Dable is going to be. When Andy Reid retires, Dable is going to be that guy. I think Dable is a special coach. And that's why the Giants were able to turn it around so quickly. And I'm happy for them. We weren't in the same cycle. Dable wasn't an option for us. And that's it. What OC wouldn't want a top 5 D and free reign to run the offense, and Saleh knows nothing about offense? Okay, a couple things. Saleh was an offensive guy, right? He was a tight end in college, and he started his career as a tight ends coach before switching to the defensive side of the ball. So saying that he knows nothing is a bit off. And look, it's not a matter of, you're right, those are appealing things, but you're looking at the offensive coordinator position through Gotham green colored glasses. To say that our offensive coordinator position is the most enticing of this offseason, that's objectively not true. There are other places that have far fewer strings attached and much more flexibility on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm not saying that we're not an attractive spot. I'm just also saying that we're not an attractive spot. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. And Mangold as O-line coach, who would pass that up. I would love for that to happen. I just don't know if that happens. Saleh and JD are here for the next 2 years guaranteed. I believe the firing LaFleur bought them a second year, and with LaFleur, it would have been playoff mandate 1 year or everyone fired. Look, I tend to agree with you. But the perception out there, what's happening in the building is we don't know what's happening in the building. We don't know what Woody is telling Joe and Robert or anything like that. We just don't know, right? And the perception publicly is that it's playoffs or bust and everyone's gone. And I think that's a mistake. You shouldn't fire everybody if we don't make the playoffs next year. It would suck if we don't make the playoffs next year again. But I think it would be a mistake. But again, that's it's also a matter of how it happens, right? So, yeah. Can't have that this time, need an experienced play caller. Exactly, and that's the point, is an experienced play caller is going to look at all of the strings attached. That's the point, right? That's the whole situation. They're going to look at Woody as one of the worst owners in the NFL. They're going to look at being in the New York market and our insane fan base, right? Because we're insane. We're one of the best fan bases, but we're also crazy, right? So you're going to look at, you know who I think would be a really good option for us to bring in? Like, I would be on board with this and kind of fits the mold for both, like, an experienced guy, but also young enough that he'd be willing to hitch his wagon to Robert Saleh. Joe Brady, the quarterback's coach in Buffalo. He was the offensive coordinator in Carolina. He got scapegoated so that Matt Rule could keep his job. Matt Rule got fired a little bit later, and we could see that it wasn't Brady's fault. He gets to go to the Buffalo Bills, who are about to go on a pretty good playoff run. Like, that would make sense. He has experience calling plays at the NFL level because he was an offensive coordinator once before. Has experience developing a quarterback because he's attributed with Joe Burrow, and he's also been in Buffalo with, like, that might be an option there. But, like, if you want a Greg Olsen, Greg Olsen's been around. I don't know. We'll see. For an OC with previous head coaching experience, Reich, it would be an opportunity if things go badly with Saleh. See, you say that, right? But how many of these interim head coaches get to keep their jobs? Who are part of a staff get to keep their jobs? And the other thing is Frank Reich is the guy that I want to come. But I don't think Frank Reich comes because I think he's going to get a head coaching job. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Frank Reich is the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Just wouldn't be surprised. Tom Brady may be a possibility the more I think about it. Tom Brady, New York City. Brady gives the Jets instant credibility. Yeah. I would probably become a Giants fan for a year or two. I don't know if I could root for the Jets with Tom Brady under center. I don't know if I could do that in my heart and make content for a year in my heart if Tom Brady is under center. He is an option. Don't get me wrong. He is an option. But I might become a Giants YouTuber for a year or two. The guy who can step in and turn the Jets around will be hailed as a god in New York. If he fails, then it was Saleh and JD, and LaFleur's reputation is somewhat restored, and the world moves on. You're right. You're not wrong. This is a good point, actually, Hawk. Like, because if you do turn it around here, you're instantly going to get a head coach job somewhere, right? Like, if you turn it around after LaFleur's bungling of this team, right, of this offense, and the absolute downfall, and you come in next year as the number 1 spot in the AFC East, the number 2 spot in the AFC, and you go on a playoff run, and you have one of the highest flying offenses, which I think any offensive coordinator should be able to do as long as we can fix the offensive line. Because which quarterback doesn't want to throw to Garrett Wilson? Come on. You're objectively wrong if you say you don't want to. You're just dumb. So, you're not wrong, Hawk. This is a great point. But Reed sucked for 3 years before he got who he is now. That's not true, man. Andy Reid, when he was with Philly, was insanely good, and those teams were incredible, and all of those stuff. And if we're talking about small little stints, like Belichick failed in Cleveland, right? Like, just because you don't get the job done doesn't mean that you're a bad coach, right? When you continue to fail, that's a different conversation, right? Like Todd Bowles continues to fail in Tampa Bay. He's a bad head coach, right? But when you go to multiple teams and you turn those franchises around and you do all of those things, that's a different conversation. I'm an Andy Reid guy. I love Andy. Guys, if you want to get some Talking Jets with Tigo merch, leave a super chat or do any of those things. Click that link. It lets you do it, and you support the channel, and I would be super, super grateful. Fair enough. You make good points. Thank you very much. I mean, Greg Olsen plus Carr would be ideal for me. Same. That's who I want. Tell Olsen he can be assistant head coach, not just offensive coordinator. That way he can help Saleh manage the game as well. I'd be more of giving him the assistant head coach job as just a means of like a title. I think that would be too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to it. There's a lot of people doing that stuff. I want him focused on the offensive side of the ball, and that's it. But if he is on the offensive side of the ball, Greg Olsen, I would say, hey, you have the right to call timeouts. You can do those things, and you can come grab the challenge flag from my butt and throw it if you need it. Like, it's going to be more of a partnership than it was with LaFleur, where I was legit his boss. But that's how I would look at it. Jets, mess. What's up? I'm with you, Tigo. I would root against them every single game, right? I don't know if I could support Tom Brady as a New York Jet, man. Tom Brady stole the greatest QB ever, Drew Bledsoe's job. I will never forgive that. There you go. Boom. What's up, everybody? But yeah, I don't know, man. It's an interesting conversation to have. And I want you guys to do something for me, okay? I want you to do something for me. If Tom Brady, Jimmy G, and Derek Carr are all gone, because those are the 3 big names, right? And I want you to be realistic here. Here's your homework. Leave it as a comment on one of the videos in the future or tweet it at me. If you don't know, you can follow me at Twitter right there at JetsWithTigo. Who do you want? Who's the answer? Who's the realistic answer at veteran that we can bring in to this team, and they're going to be a solid quarterback that you're like totally happy with? I'm telling you, after you look at the list and go back, I know a lot of you have NFL Plus. Go back and watch the New Orleans Saints games. He wasn't as bad as everyone thinks he is. I'm just saying. Okay, Jets, mess. Which rookie And what are we paying to go get this rookie? What rookie comes in right now and is better than Zach Wilson that we'll be able to get at 13? I'm just saying. And with the possibility that CJ Stroud is going to stay at Ohio State, the number one pick just became so much more expensive. To answer your question, Jets mess, as someone who has just recently finished all of his quarterback evaluations in this upcoming draft, there isn't one. There isn't an answer in the draft. Like, at all. So, I'm just saying. If we don't get Carr, then I want Zach to start and just fight through the year with a new OC and grow. I know that's unpopular, but that's what I think is best for the team. I don't disagree. I just don't think that's what they do. Oh, God, no. Tyson, take it back. I'm taking that off the screen. Take it back. Ugh. I don't want it. Oh, man. That hurt my soul. Alrighty. Boys, girls, anyone else who's stopped by the stream. I've been live for about an hour. I don't want the corpse of Matt Ryan. Mess. I also think Matt Ryan retires. But that is an interesting... I'd never thought of Matt Ryan because I always thought that he was just going to retire. That's interesting. That's an interesting name. I don't love it, but it is an interesting name. Alrighty, guys. I've been live for an hour. I might go live a little bit later tonight. Who knows? We'll see. Stay tuned. Follow me on Twitter. I'll announce it there. But I got to go make some food for my pregnant wife. There's the announcement. If you didn't know that, I guess the 8 people that are in here get to find out before everybody else. My wife is pregnant with baby number 2. Super exciting. Super fun. But got to go make her some food and all that stuff. Guys, on the way out, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the sub button, like I just said. Hit the like button on the way out. And thank you so much for hanging out and being a part of the channel. I appreciate you guys and everything that you do. All the comments, all the everything, all the watches, all of that stuff. Thank you. And yeah, I am